Hello, I'm Joan Claire Graham, the Minnesota Memories Lady. Today I'm going to read you a story from Volume 7 of my Minnesota Memories series, which you can find at your local library. This story is by Mary Kalkes James, who lived in the Northfield area. Mary was 92 years old when she submitted this story to Minnesota Memories, which just goes to show if you've got a good story, it's never too late to write it down. We've been experiencing a lot of bad news lately. This story, which was written almost 100 years ago, starts with bad news and ends with hope that things could get better in the future. It's called The Klan by Mary Kalkes James. Wall Street crashed in 1929, but on our farm near Northfield, we did not feel the full effects until a year or so later when farm prices started to fall steeply. By then, we were in a drought cycle, a time sometimes known as the Dust Bowl or the Dirty 30s. By June, our pastures were brown, and we had to cut young corn to feed our cattle. Just prior to this discouraging time, Ku Klux Klansmen had come up from the South to Minnesota. They held rallies near small towns, trying to enlist and organize white Protestant men to join the Klan. Since we did not have any racial minorities to hate, their bigotry focused on Catholics. They opposed Al Smith, a Catholic who ran for president in 1928. And after that, they blamed the economy on the Pope and the Catholic Church. Their presence in Northfield gave a little excitement to some people's dull lives in those days before television, radio, or telephones in most farmhouses. Nobody had money for other forms of entertainment. I have a clipping from the Northfield News that states that an estimated 400 sheeted Klansmen paraded down the main street of town one Saturday night. The Klan burned crosses at night in front of the Catholic Church, and we had a new Catholic school staffed by 4 nuns from Mankato. The very first night they were in town, someone burned a cross on their convent lawn, terrifying them. Our hired man would walk into town Saturday nights, and on Sunday he would tell us all the news at the breakfast table. He would tell how this neighbor or that one had joined the Klan. He said that one neighbor said he wasn't going to exchange threshing help with my father, Gus Kalkes, because we were Catholics. Since we were the only Catholics on our road, I think my parents were worried, but they didn't let on. As summer got hotter and drier, the relentless weather stunted our crops. My father decided to stack our grain because to do that, you don't need a large crew. If you left the stacks in the field, you needed 12 to 14 helpers. If you stacked, you could get by with about 8. My father did not put all his stacks in one area. He put maybe 10 or 12 together, and then he made more across the field to protect the grain. In case of lightning or some other disaster, there was a chance that not all would be destroyed. One hot morning, I brought lunch out to the field and was playing with the dog in the shade of the stacks when a pickup truck came racing across the field, throwing up huge clouds of dust. It was our good neighbor, Fred Gongolis, and his son. They pulled up and they shouted, "Fred Chester's field is on fire," and they drove off. Fred's farm was about 1.5 miles from ours, and he was one of the neighbors who had joined the Klan. My father climbed down the ladder and told the hired man to unhitch the team and take it to the barn. He and Eddie, the young man my parents had raised, climbed into the truck that was by the stack. They drove to the shop and took shovels, sacks, and cans of water, and with the hired man, went to the fire. Fred Chester had put all his stacks together near his barn. When my father, Eddie, and the hired man arrived, Fred was frantically plowing between the stacks and the fire, which was running in the stubble field. There was a swamp a good way away that had peat in it. During the long drought, the swamp had gone dry, but somehow the peat had caught fire. It may have been smoldering for days before the wind blew it into the field. Other neighbors arrived, and then more. They beat out the flames with wet sacks and shoveled dirt onto the fire. The work was exhausting. Sometimes the fire seemed to be out, and then it would break out again. But finally, it was extinguished. The men stood around, all soaked with sweat, their faces and eyebrows singed. My father's straw hat brim was charred as he looked around the circle of neighbors. That was when something good happened. Fred Chester stood in the center of the group, thanking everyone for saving his crop. Then he made a little speech. He said, "I want you all to know that I will never again go to another Klan meeting. When I needed help, the first man here was Gus Kalkes." Some of the others looked down and shifted their feet. Nobody else spoke up or said anything to either agree or disagree. But that was pretty much the end of the Klan in our neighborhood. A year later, it had died out everywhere in the area.